He's trying. He's putting forth some effort. All right. I need to make sure that you guys can hear me. So maybe not on my. I'm just gonna keep y'all right here. Yeah, just making sure. I'm gonna keep y'all right here for right now. It seems like everything is streaming. Let's go to where I need to be. Awesome. And pop out my chat. No, don't send feedback. No, don't send feedback. Just give me the chat. Pop out chat. Okay, guys. Daddy's ready. Daddy's ready. It took me a minute. I was going through some things, but I figured it out. Let's. Okay. Hi. Welcome to my book club. Um, it's been kind of crazy, kind of hectic. So we're back on it. We're doing it right now. So welcome to the book club. Uh, we are currently reading Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakeley. We are working through the last chapter. Inshallah, we finished that bitch, but I don't know. Um, Essentially, what my book club is not like any other book club where you guys are already reading the material and then we come back and we discuss it. No. What we do here is we read together, or more likely, I read aloud. And if you want, you can listen to me read. You can hear my voice. Actually, you guys are too far away. Come closer. Come a little closer to me. Thank you. So, yeah, I read out loud. And as I'm reading, we're digesting the information that I'm reading as a group, right? We're feeling it, we're going through the journey, juntos, together, you know? Hold on. Turn off that backlight because that was annoying the fuck out of me. Yeah, so we're doing this shit together, and I mean all of it. We're not just taking in the information and learning together, but we're, figuring out how to read together. I sound words out that I don't know. I ask for definitions. I look up concepts. I encourage you guys to do all of that with me. You know what I'm saying? Because we are learning as a group and figuring this shit out together. So that's the whole point of the book club. Um, for those of you who don't know, what's up, super? How you doing, fam? In addition to all of that stuff, right? The reason why this book club is so important is because it's a sacred space. We have various different types of people here. You don't need to be an anarchist like myself. You don't have to be an anti-capitalist. You can be whatever you want. We are here to learn. We're here to read, right? And because of that, I require people to be rather respectful on the live. For the most part, no one's really come to fuck with us. Usually, when it's just about the book and reading, people tend to be respectful. But also, I am draconian. I don't give warnings out. So, like, if you come in here on some bullshit, I'm just gonna remove you forever. Like, I won't even mute. You're just gonna get blocked. You know what I'm saying? Because who has time? Who has time? This is a sacred space, and if you can't respect that, thank you, fam. I appreciate it. If you can't respect the sacred space, then you can't fucking be here. It's just that simple. So, and I will block you every single time. So, however many accounts you got, if you come here to be disrespectful, you're not gonna have a long time here. I promise you that. Let me make sure that this is where it's supposed to be. I don't think it is. But yeah, okay, good. Yeah. So, yeah, that's number one. Be respectful, be genuine. Feel free to engage. If you have any information, any knowledge, any, anecdote, share that shit. That's what we're here for. Outside of that, I have a Patreon. The Patreon is where the book club community gets to convene. We get to talk about the next books that we are going to read. We've already decided that we're going to read a fiction book that's Afrofuturistic after we're done with this one. But yeah, we already decided on the types of book that we're going to read. We've already decided on uh topics. We like to share things that we do with each other or that we've been doing in our personal lives. We really do encourage people to be engaged in their community, mutual aid, making friends, what have you. All of that is important, right? So we encourage all of that. And if you are so inclined to share the things that we have been doing in our community, we share it there. I'm also doing like random things like video reactions and TV show reactions on there. Uh, Equipment is not up to snuff. I already know. So, I have a couple of reaction videos there too. You can see that. All of the content that is on my Patreon is free. Like, you'll have access to it. The only thing you got to do is become a member, right? And the membership is free 99. If you are so inclined on becoming an actual like paid member, that's welcomed, but it's not required. Um, but yeah, outside of that, what else am I missing? Oh, yes. In addition to that, if you want a little bit of a higher quality experience, I am also streaming on YouTube live. Um, Citizen Cocaine on YouTube. So if you want the audio from this mic and the quality from this webcam, feel free to swing over there. Most of the time, everybody just stays here. Nobody really pays attention to me, but yeah. Yeah, that's that. I think that's all of it. Okay, cool. So I believe where we last left off was in chapter 9. Do 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 do. Let's get there. Bam, bam. And we were already talking about like, in chapter 8 we were talking about we were seeing all these examples of local initiatives, on the municipality level and below, of how people, everyday people, were able to kind of democratize not only their jobs, but also the communities that they live in. So, for example, um, peer reviewed, not peer reviewed, but citizen influenced budgets, right? There are some examples that we read where the citizens had a certain amount of control over a certain amount of the budget. So let's say they had like $25 million of the budget that they can do whatever they wanted. Like the citizenry could do whatever they voted to do with it, right? And how that built factories and childcare services and all that stuff, right? So we on the local level got to see examples of how the community really does for self when it's allowed to, right? In chapter 9, we're trying to see what that would look like on a larger scale, on a national scale. So we already talked about how we could make capital scream, and we are um, diving into that, right? And diving into how that looks. We started off this section in chapter 9 talking about Allende, who was the president of Chile back in the 70s, and what he was able to do over the course of just 2 years, to be honest. A whole overhaul and redistribution of wealth, investment in literacy, investment in child services and child care, investment in women and women's education, all of this happening within 2 years. In addition to that, the nationalization of some industries in Chile, primarily their oil and food industries, right? Now, the CIA came in there and ousted Allende for the sin of taking away profits from the United States. And once they kicked him out, they replaced him with Pinochet. Pinochet was a I don't know why I keep holding this. I'm going to take this off. But Pinochet was a dictator who murdered quite a few people. Um, hundreds of, well, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of individuals who were um, people who worked with Allende and worked with expanding everyone's access to everything. They murdered them, and in fashion, a lot of them were thrown out of helicopters. That's one of the things that a lot of fucked up people like to brag about and joke about, is how Pinochet was throwing people out of helicopters for the sin of wanting to have more profit come to Chile, and in the agreement that they have with the United States and U.S. corporations. So that's what we were diving into to set up what really is placed against people when they try to do these things on a national scale, right? Allende is just but one example of many. The same thing happened in Iran with Mossadegh, and we all see how that's playing out, you know? So, yeah, we're going to continue on. Let me see. Yeah. Did we do this section already? Yeah. All right. So now we're going to be talking about democratizing finance. That's the section that we're going to be diving into. Again, I really wish I should probably hold on. Can I put up a sticker on here? Let me see. Because I'm reading, but let's see. I don't want a reward sticker. I want like a picture that I can put up. Sorry guys, I'm trying to see if I can I think so. Damn, I can't put like a picture of like what it is that we're reading up here for the newcomers and all that good shit. Okay, well, either way, when the regulars come through, they'll see it. But yeah, we're gonna start with. Whoa, that was a weird noise. Yeah, we're gonna just start reading this section, democratizing finance. All right. So, oop, yeah, that's weird. Let me. I just fuck me. God damn. Should not be that hard. Okay, here we go. Democratizing finance. Oh, yeah. Also, let me zoom in on this because I'm blind and I like to be able to see, you know? Okay, so as we saw in chapter 5, decisions about investment are currently the closely guarded prerogatives of capital. Sorry. Stop yelling, I'm reading! Jesus Christ. As we saw in chapter 5, decisions about investment are currently the closely guarded prerogatives of capital. Financial institutions which finance and mediate these decisions therefore have significant power to control which businesses succeed, which individuals thrive, and which states grow. Yet, they wield this power with a view to maximizing profits, even at the expense of people and planet. Democratizing the financial system, that is, uh, democratizing the financial system, that is, handing power over investment decisions to workers and communities that will be affected by those decisions, will be a cornerstone of democratizing society. Introducing public, democratically governed retail banking could help break the stronghold of the big banks over this critical public service, allowing for lower fees and interest rates for consumers and curbing the power of financial capital over our democratic institutions. One proposal outlined by the UK Labour Party in 2019 would be to set up a network of post banks through the postal system. This public bank would be capitalized by the central government and run as a subsidiary of the post office. With governance decentralized to local and regional levels, a model that should be simple to replicate in other national contexts. The banks could provide standard retail services such as current accounts, savings accounts, insurance services, and small loans at low interest rates. The banks could also be used to achieve other public policy goals, such as helping those with unsustainable debts refinance their borrowing, or even write off debt for households in poverty, and subjecting the institution to democratic decision making processes by, for example, providing it with a democratically elected board would further boost worker and citizen power. So essentially, what she's talking about here is having a having the post office have its own banking service, which was talked about at some point in time for a while in the United States as well. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. We just started it. You only thing you missed was the introduction of how we do shit here, and the beginning of the section that we started. So essentially, what she's talking about is as an example of democratizing finance is having a publicly serviced bank, right? So having the post office provide banking services that give like a nonprofit alternative for people, right? Um, and that way, everybody can have access to banking, which is something that I think is really really important, especially if you are old enough to remember. Um, 2008, a lot of people fell out of the banking system. And once you fall out of the banking system, you realize that you can't do a lot. You need a bank to you need a bank to get checks. You need a bank to transfer things. Sometimes you need things for credit cards. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes you're gonna need a credit card to rent a vehicle or get a hotel. Like once you fall out of the banking system, your life becomes more and more difficult to live. So having this as an option would be helpful in a multitude of ways, right? Having the post office running its own banking service would be helpful, right? Public investment banks are already important actors within the world economy. Many capitalist states use public banks, sovereign wealth funds, and public pension funds to direct investment within their economies. Clearly, setting up public investment banks does not inherently promote democratization or threaten the power of capital. But these institutions will. I have a fly that's just like fucking. It's a gnat, something, just fucking buzzing all around me. It's annoying as fuck. Anyways, ugh. Oh, yeah. But these institutions will have a key role in democratizing the economy because they help to socialize investment decisions, challenging capital's ability to threaten strike or flight. And they could play an important role in supporting the democratization of the economy through, for instance, lending to cooperative enterprises or decarbonization programs. Subjecting these institutions to generally democratic decision making processes, like those outlined for other public companies in the previous section, would be an even more radical proposal. Right? Democratizing the financial system is also a critical prerequisite to democratizing ownership throughout the economy. Asset managers like BlackRock control vast quantities of other people's money and use it to prop up the status quo. A public, democratic asset manager could challenge the power of those behemoths and help democratize investment decisions, as well as socializing ownership in the economy. In my first book, Stolen, which I have and I gotta read, I outlined a proposal for a people's asset manager, or PAM. PAM is cool. A public democratic BlackRock that could democratize investment and socialize ownership throughout the economy. The PAM could contain several pots of cash, some of which would manage on behalf of society as a whole, such as Citizens Wealth Fund, and some of which it would manage on behalf of individuals, such as public sector pensions. The former fund could invest based on collectively determined public goals, while the latter would have to be determined by pension holders themselves, with a view to securing returns as well as promoting other social objectives. The PAM could work with the National Investment Bank proposed earlier in this section, investing in companies to which the bank had lent, in the same way that many investment banks also have asset management arms that allow them to take advantage of investment opportunities that arise from their lending activities. Look, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that an HOA with this would be a lot easier to manage. Sorry, I'm having body dysmorphia right now because I feel like my chest looks like titties. So my t-shirt is just a little too heavy or too tight. Anyways, but yeah, having that instead for HOAs, that'd be fucking perfect. I mean, let's democratize all of this. I think HOAs are not democratized enough, to be honest. But yeah, it would be perfect. Uh, Next section is so that was us talking about democratizing finance, which having it's basically having a public option. Yes, abolish HOAs, absolutely. It's basically creating a public option for financing and banking, right? So a public option for investments, a public option for your savings and checking account, a public option for your pensions instead of having this 401k shit. I think that would go a long way into having people more engaged with their government, but also, having like a backup plan or at least not being totally asked out. Right. So continuing on, we're going to talk about democratizing the state now. The kind of democracy that exists in capitalist societies is inherently limited. Participation is limited to elections, and most people have little to no say in the manifestos of the parties vying for their votes. The close links between cartelized political cartelized political parties, capital, and the state mean that policy is generally limited to small reforms that will not fundamentally threaten the status quo. And even where progressive parties do come close to winning power, there are vast swaths of the state apparatus that have deliberately been placed outside democratic control. That's a reality, right? Aware that the system is stacked against them, working class voters in much of the rich world have been leaving the electorate in mass. Trust in democracy is at all time lows. She's talking about my people. She's talking about me, a motherfucker like me, because I also left. I left electoral politics back in 2016. Bernie Sanders was my compromise, right? Like when Bernie Sanders was like really on the come up during that Democratic primary, he was my compromise. I was like, you know what? I said fuck this party for forever. You know, as a Haitian who is very much aware of my current history and my and history in general for Haiti. I was not voting for a Clinton. Suck my dick from the back on that one. So it was like, okay, y'all got Bernie. I'd much rather like all the excuses and logic that people use now, where it's like, you got to vote for the person you'd rather fight. I would rather fight Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was the person that was like, I would rather be going against a Bernie Sanders America than a Clinton America. And the Democrats played a lot of fuck games, a lot of fuck games, and they set themselves up for failure because in addition to those fuck games, they also propped up Donald Trump. A lot of people, I think people purposely forget that, but the Democrats and Hillary Clinton's team, which I think my conspiracy theory is the Hillary Clinton team were in talks with Donald Trump to play this along, right? Um, because they essentially did this. They essentially did it against Obama back in 2008, right? Hillary Clinton's campaign started the birtherism. She was the first, her campaign was the first to start talking about whether or not Barack Obama was an actual citizen. And it's not a coincidence that her good friend from New York, Donald Trump, picked up on that story. This is during a time where everybody was going to everybody's kid's wedding and shit. They were all having dinners and shit. The Clintons and the Trumps were very, very close in New York City. So it's not a coincidence that when Hillary Clinton's campaign brought up whether or not Barack Obama was actually a citizen during the Democratic primary back in 2008, that Donald Trump picked that shit up and ran with it. Not a coincidence, right? So I think that they double tapped his ass again, not reading the room, much like the arrogant fucking Republican establishments. The Republican establishment did not read the room, was not catching what was happening, and was not paying attention to that little fucking gremlin demon, right? Um, and I think because of that, you know, other people were handling him at the time. And when she came back to him in 2016 to have him do the same fuck shit, he got one over on her. And I think that's how they had that falling out. Because there's no fucking way that those two families were that close for that long, making that much money with each other. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, Bernie Sanders was my compromise in 2016. And once I saw exactly how the DNC and the DCCC were playing dirty when it came to that primary, it was fuck them forever. I don't give a shit. I know exactly what I saw. I know exactly what I experienced. I know exactly what I witnessed. It's been in the news. They've talked about this campaign and how they ran that campaign in the primaries, the fucking shenanigans that they did in New York City alone. Written them off. So I say all that to say, uh, I am the people where she's talking about, you know, citizens leaving the electorate. I wish more people did. Anyways, I digress. Sorry, that was a tangent. Um, Many allegedly democratic countries are becoming ever more authoritarian in the face of fierce resistance from those suffering most from the economic and political turmoil currently engulfing our politics. In the midst of this onslaught, it is critical that socialists fight to defend the hard won democratic rights that many of us have come to enjoy. But defending liberal democracy is not enough. It must be deepened. The kinds of democratic reforms required to strengthen democracy will differ from place to place, sorry. There is a great deal more variation in political institutions than there is across economic ones, in part because the latter have been subject to the pressures of imperialism. But there are some common demands around which socialists can rally. So let's see what those demands are. In many countries, the liberal revolutions that began in the 18th century have not yet been completed. The UK, for example, still has a monarchy, an upper chamber, the House of Lords, and a local authority, the City of London Corporation, a private organization that governs one of the world's largest financial centers, including having power over local taxation and policing. It's kind of like having the Fed. It's kind of like having the central bank, but also giving the central. Wow, no, the central bank does have policing powers. So yeah, this is like having the central bank. It's like having the Federal Reserve. Okay. Ah, crazy. That these institutions are all insulated from democratic accountability. Same with the Federal Reserve and the central bank. Socialists must fight alongside genuine liberals to remove these undemocratic feudal hangovers. We don't have any liberals that are trying to undo our central banks and our Fed. And in authoritarian regimes, the introduction of democratic reforms is, alongside building unions and community institutions to protect people's livelihoods, of the highest priority. Democratizing central banking will be another essential part of democratizing both the state and the economy. As I argue in Stolen, the makeup of central bank committees should be changed to include representation from the government, labor and social movements, and other stakeholders, as well as containing a majority of directly elected members. Their decisions should be scrutinized frequently by an independent panel of citizens, including some experts, who would report to the government and, if necessary, directly challenge the bank's decisions. Sounds like, yeah. Participatory budgeting, that's what it's called. Participatory budgeting and policymaking should also be introduced at every level of government. Citizens should be offered a chance to have a say in policymaking and spending in municipal, regional, and national government. The fuck? That was a huge ass bug. Sorry. Right. As outlined in the previous chapter, participatory budgeting is already widespread and currently practiced in hundreds of cities around the world. Innovations like Better Reykjavik and Decidim in Spain show how the democratic process can be deepened even further by allowing citizens a chance to vote on the policies that will be in a party's manifesto. That sounds, yeah. Can you imagine one of the things that gets thrown in your face when you are a leftist criticizing the Democratic Party, or really any party, but mostly liberals say this shit because they're litigious, is that the DNC and the DCCC, those are private organizations. They don't have any responsibility to citizens. They don't have any responsibility to voters and what they do and how they do things. They're private organizations, as if that's a good thing, right? No, the DNC and the DCCC should be public. The RNC should be publicly owned, publicly controlled organizations. Anything to do with the electoral system. There shouldn't be anything private anywhere near it at all. Like there shouldn't be super PACs. Campaigns should be publicly funded so that there's a level playing field. The public should fund that shit. You know, the DNC and the DCCC and the RNC and all these fucking organizations that are there to help these parties exist should be publicly funded and publicly ran. You know, but oftentimes these people, liberals specifically, will throw in your face that the organizations and the political parties that they are behind aren't publicly ran, and that's crazy. That's ridiculous. You know. But yeah, continuing on, I digress. Um, Social democratic parties should commit to promoting subsidiarity. That is, oh yeah, hold on, let me say that differently. Social democratic parties should commit to promoting subsidiarity. I, yeah, I think it's subsidiarity. That is, ensuring that decisions are undertaken as close as feasible to those affected. This does not mean that all decisions should be made at the local level. It would not be feasible to conduct, say, macroeconomic or climate policy locally. But where it is possible for a decision to be made closer to a community without dampening its effectiveness, decentralization should be encouraged. Not because localism is inherently progressive, but because it is easier for organized workers and communities to apply pressure to local government than it is to national government. And smaller local victories provide momentum that can support movements to transform national politics too. Equalizing the balance of power between capital and labor also requires imposing strict limits on political donations and lobbying. In the US, where the money directed into politics has reached eye watering levels, and it's only gotten worse since United, vested interests are able to raise and donate billions. I'm saying billions now because that's more accurate. Hold on a second. God damn. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Sorry, y'all. My fiance is contacting me because she forgot that I have book club. Um, everybody did, apparently. So this is going to be a quick one, a quick book club because everybody's doing their thing. But yeah, um, I love you too, baby. Stop texting me. Let me put this shit on. I don't want to put it on silent because I need to hear, but you know. Anyways, going back to it. Um, Equalizing the balance of power between capital and labor also requires imposing strict limits on political donations and lobbying. In the US, where the money directed into politics has reached eye watering levels, vested interests are able to raise and donate millions to their preferred candidates. I'm going to say billions there because this past election cycle has been billions of dollars. This allows them to exert significant influence over policy. Corporations are now also legally considered people, which means restrictions on corporate donations have been outlawed in the name of free speech. And a powerful network of right wing think tanks, lobbyists, and media organizations dominates the wider political landscape. Not only are corporations seen as people right now, in Delaware, they are fighting for the right of corporations to be able to vote. Let me bring that up right quick because let me see. How do you spell Delaware? Yep. Yep, there it is. Corporations voting. Bam. We're gonna look this up right quick. I mean, I saw this on TikTok, so I could be wrong. It could be a lie. Oh, nope. Let's go with Bloomberg law. See what Bloomberg is saying. Corporations can vote in some Delaware elections. So it's not a lie. Okay. So according to Judge Craig A. Karsnitz, yeah, corporations are able to vote in some elections. Corporations should not be able to vote at all because they're not people. They're not people. They have personhood though, and that has allowed them to be able to do this. That's fucking crazy. Mm. So yeah, not only are these motherfuckers, yeah, yeah. Delaware court upholds voting by companies in small towns election. Yeah, this is from Reuters, and this was 3 days ago. So yeah, not only do corporations, um, not only do corporations. Oh no, appreciate it. Don't even tell me, fam. Don't even tell me. Just do it. Just do it. If they're spamming some shit, that's fine because I can't see anything. You know, can't see any of that shit. I'm paying attention. What up, Trini? Yeah. So, yeah. So now in Delaware, corporations can vote. And that's this is so far down the pipeline of shenanigans that we have to deal with these fucking corporations, man. Oh man, it's crazy, you know. And this is in Delaware. Delaware is not it's not a right wing bastion. You know, it's not MAGA town. Let's see. Let's look up Delaware's government just to make sure. Go to our trusted source, Wikipedia. um, yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah. So the executive branch in Delaware. The present governor is Matt Meyer, Democrat, took office in January of 2025. Lieutenant governor is Kyle Evans Gay, Democrat. Attorney General is Kathy Jennings, Democrat. Treasurer is Colleen Davis, Democrat. She's been there since 2019. The auditor is Lydia York, Democrat, been there since 2023. An insurance commissioner is Trinidad Navarro, Democrat. A lot of Democrats in this executive branch here. You know, like Democratic Delaware is very much a blue state, and they just allowed for a corporation to have the ability to vote. And I'm pretty sure none of the Democrats are really talking about that and how terrible that is. But you know, whatever. I digress. It's whatever. You know, fuck it. Why not give these inanimate objects the ability to vote? Right? Anyways, continuing. Oh God, it's so terrible. It's so terrible. Terrible. All right. Where did I leave off? Yeah. In the US, reactionary interpretations of the constitutional right to free speech make reforming campaign finance difficult. But there are plenty of proposals to limit the influence of money in politics that would bypass these problems. Campaign finance reform must also consider ways to ensure progressive parties are able to access funding. In Germany, all political parties that surpass a certain voting threshold receive a stipend from the state that they can use to support allied movements and institutions. Right, yeah, yeah. It's Hassan Piker that's fucking everything up, you know. Not the fact that their governments in these states are allowing for corporations to have the right to vote. That there couldn't possibly be any long-term effects of that. Couldn't possibly. The real demon is Hassan fucking Piker, you know? These people are so unserious. Ask, man, point that out. Next, ask a liberal if they've heard that Delaware is now allowing for corporations to be able to vote in elections. Let's see how dedicated they are to protecting democracy. Let's see. That's a good case study. Since these motherfuckers are so worried about fucking fascism, we're quite literally in a plutocracy right now. Let me not. Let me not. Let me not, because I'll get mad. Okay, we got about 55 more minutes before I got to dip out on you guys. So let me dive into this a little bit faster. I'm trying not to get into super tangents, but yeah. Um, Campaign finance reform must also consider ways to ensure progressive parties are able to access funding. In Germany, all political parties that surpass a certain voting threshold receive a stipend from the state that that they can use to support allied movements and institutions. You're good. You're good. You're good. I just gotta be careful about it. Phil says I have a neighbor from Delaware whose mom is a Democrat lobbyist. I would, yes, ask her. Come back. You know. Tell us on the Patreon too. Like just make a little blurb on the Patreon in the chat. How that goes. Really want, because I want to know in its truest form. I want to know it. You know, no filtering. So yeah, they give the stipend to political parties so that they have allied movements and institutions they can support financially. Introducing any of these reforms will require democratizing political parties. Here we go. Many social democratic parties have become cartelized. They have developed such close relationships with state institutions that they no longer feel they need to nurture links with their activist bases. So, in fact, many of these parties have focused far more on ridding themselves of socialists than on winning elections. If democratic parties continue to spend all their energy fighting the surge in support for socialism among their base, they will guarantee their going their ongoing electoral marginalization. But for many politicians, electoral marginalization is a small price to pay for maintaining their control over a dying institution, which is why it is necessary to democratize political parties and ensure they are accountable to their members and the wider political movements that support them. The strategies required to achieve this will vary from place to place. In majoritarian electoral systems, like those in the US and the United Kingdom, activists have little choice other than to work within existing social democratic parties. Doing so successfully will, however, require a strong focus on building power outside these parties as well, in communities, within the labor movement, and on the street, right? So, as much as Democratic Socialists of America want to feel like they don't need those of us who function outside of electoral politics, you will not be able to get far with anything that you want to do. And your organizations will continuously be susceptible to corruption without the motherfuckers that are in the outside. If I have to accept, if I, as an outsider of electoral politics, have to accept the reality that I need people inside of electoral politics, then the people inside of electoral politics also have to accept the fact and reality that they need people like me on the outside. Because when those motherfuckers don't take you seriously, they take me seriously. Because they know I'm dead fucking ass. And we see this in history. We've seen it several times already. There are so many movements that would not exist the way that they exist right now if it wasn't for the motherfuckers that are like, you better listen to them. Because I'm not talking. I'm not talking no more and I'm not asking anymore. Where are we at? Okay? A lot of movements wouldn't have gotten as far as they did without motherfuckers like me on the outside. And I understand that we wouldn't be able to maintain what little gains that we did get without the motherfuckers on the inside. I can admit that. I can acknowledge that. Okay? That's no sweat off my brow. Phil says the interdependence of coalition serves every movement. Exactly. What's up, Angry Mongol? How you doing, fam? But yes, okay. So I digress. We're going to keep it pushing. I just wanted to say that out loud, though. Yeah. The strategies required to achieve this will vary. Oh, we already did this. These electoral systems themselves must also be the focus of reform. Systems like first past the post privilege, the two largest parties, as well as parties with insignificant regional support, over smaller parties that nevertheless command extensive popular support. Moving towards more proportional systems, which nevertheless contain an element of local accountability for representatives, would be a step forward for democratic politics in countries like the United States and the United Kingdom. I'm hanging in there, fam. I'm hanging in there. We're doing our book club right now, so I'm always good when I'm doing my book club. Like, real shit. You guys don't know how therapeutic this is for me right now for the week that I have had. um, in more pluralistic electoral systems, progressives have had more success in building new political parties from the ground up. The idea of the movement party, championed by activists and politicians in countries like Spain, provides an interesting model. Democratic accountability between leaders and the wider movement is the central requirement for a movement party. And measures like the democratic selection of candidates and policies, including through e democracy, are critical in this regard. Another central factor in ensuring left political parties retain democratic legitimacy is through the promotion of working class candidates. As Ralph Miliband observed, in most countries, politics is dominated by an insular elite that permits entry to few outsiders. Historically, labor movements provided another route for working class leaders to emerge and enter mainstream politics. But as the unions have declined, so too has working class representation. In any case, this route was often foreclosed to marginalized groups within the working class. Ensuring truly democratic candidate selection processes is key to ensuring these political parties are able to win the trust of electorates. So I think like Cory Bush is a perfect. My voice sounds sophisticated. Thank you. It's because I have a Catholic mother who taught me how to read, and a Catholic mother who went to Catholic school her entire life that taught me how to read. That's all that that is. But I appreciate it. I think Cory Bush is a perfect example of this, like working class um, route. Granted, when Cory Bush got into office, she didn't have a union that was pushing her through it. What pushed her through it, unfortunately, was the draconian, murderous nature of our government and our state. Like because she was organizing with Ferguson, that put her on the map for that community. And because Ferguson was so big, it put her on the map. So that, not to be crass, but that event bought her a lot of social capital and bought her a lot of free press and free promotion. If she wasn't as involved in Ferguson, I don't think that there would have been a Cory Bush in Congress for as long as she managed to be there. And unfortunately, I think that because of the weakness of our labor movement in this country, there's probably going to have to be another widespread movement along those lines for another Cory Bush to pop back up into Congress. But yeah, I think that's a really important point to make that in democratizing politics um, and governance, we also need to create spaces and avenues for people who are working class that don't have the money or the time to make it through this, and to make it all the way through. I do think that it does build trust with the electorate because we see it as, oh, you're one of us. You're not some trust fund baby. Hey, what up, butter? You're not some trust fund baby. You're not like some rich kid that got to go to college, and all this other shit. You're not some upper middle class lawyer making a career for yourself. You are, of the proletariat. So that makes sense. Mm. Okay, we're making good time, I think. Uh, but for those of you who don't know, those of you just joining us, hi, baby. I know that you're watching. We are reading Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakeley. We're on the last chapter. If you want to catch up on any other chapters that we have read already, you can swing over to the Patreon where it counts. It's in the bio if you want to know how to get to that. There is a post where we did a recap of all the previous chapters and all that good shit. Sorry, I got a little puppy feet. Just fucking. Got you, mama. I had to save my dog. Come here, baby. Come here. She was getting harassed by the puppies. Okay. Yeah, we got like Shih Tzu puppies out here. My mother got Shih Tzu puppies. But yeah. Yeah. So we're reading Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakeley. If you would like to follow along with what I am reading, you can swing over to the YouTube channel. The text is up there on the YouTube channel and all that stuff as I speak. Hi, guys. You can also interact with me on that chat. That would be cool too. Yeah. Yes, babies. She needs to be groomed. She needs to be shaved down. I got you, mama. Hi. Yeah. It's my daughter. It's my daughter. Hi, my love. Stop licking me in my mouth, please. But yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. There's nothing on me that tastes well. What up, V? How you doing? But yeah, if you want to read along with the text, feel free. You're more than welcome to. Just swing over to YouTube. You also will hear uh, a better quality in my voice. This is Caramel. Yeah. And my mother's dog will be all right. If she wanted it to be done professionally, if she wanted that shit to be done professionally, she should have taken that motherfucker to a professional. She know I'm stressed out. She know I got a lot of shit going on. Sit down, mama. Go sit. You want to sit on me? Okay, come on. Come on. Okay. I'm about to shave this one myself. She about to look fucked up too. Shit. Actually, she won't look as bad because I'll have a guard with her. My clippers are back in Michigan. Oh yeah. Not oh no. Oh yeah. She about to get this work. About to get shaved the fuck down. Good luck. Good luck. You gotta find me first. Actually, they gotta find a lawyer first. Stop. I do not want you to kiss me in the mouth. Okay? I love you. But I don't want you to kiss me in the mouth, okay? Thank you. No, ain't no running. Ain't no hiding. It's done. Okay. Can you get down? Or are you just gonna stare at me lovingly? Not Caramel, do you know you? She don't need to know. She gonna find out. She gonna be like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, get used to it. You get used to that noise. That's what it sounds like. And this is what I have to do with your belly. That's what it sounds like, so. Yes, she is. She gonna be all right. The hair grows back. Yeah. Fuck y'all. Tree said when, when the barber tries to push your hairline back. Now I'm just gonna make you bald, son. I'm not trying to push the hairline back. I'm erasing that hairline. That shit gone. It's gone. I'm like a barber from the 90s. Remember the barbers from the 90s? The motherfuckers, you take your little boys, all the little boys would go to that barber when they're like between the ages of like 3 and like, I don't know, 12. They all went to the same barber. That was just like, nigga, you bald. You gonna look like LL Cool J in this bitch. That's why so many of them thought it was cool to be bald when they was grown and shit. It's like, yeah, we ain't growing that. Get all that shit out of here. That's the type of barber I am. I got one setting, 0. You get zeros. Yeah. Good luck. It's gonna take you at least 6 months to get your waves back fucking around with me. I'm shaving that shit right the fuck off. I ain't got time. Y'all see how I do my shit, you know? Like I just grow it out. Keep it a little bit curly. Cause outside of this, if it's not this or dreads, I'm bald. I'm not dealing with this shit. Sorry. AI summary. Watching the host shave a dog's fur. That's not what's happening, AI summary. That's not what's happening. Not what's happening at all. That's cool though. That's adorable. Yeah. My name is Jeff. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. Stop distracting me. Like I said, we got 40 minutes before I got to dip out on y'all. I'm trying to get through as much of this as possible. You know. Oh, God. We're almost there. I might like leave and come back. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Once we get through this section, I'm gonna leave, do what I gotta do, and then come back and finish. I'm just finishing this chapter. I'm finishing this chapter, y'all. It's getting finished today. So I'm finishing this book today. All right, so I'm gonna take care of what I need to take care of, come back, finish what I'm doing with y'all, and then next fucking Saturday, we are reading a fiction book. I am ready. I am so ready to take a break from the real world. Y'all have no idea. I am ready. So we finishing this bitch. This is gonna be a two-parter, right? So you motherfuckers on the Patreon watching this, this is part one of the end. Goddamn right. Just like this one. I gotta shave the other dog too. My mom has two puppies. So the other dog is getting shaved down. Oh, was that sexual? Okay, mama. Okay. You gonna lay on dada. I know, mama. Come lay. Okay. I got you. Papa's got you. Relax. Okay. So, we've talked about democratizing capital. We've talked about democratizing finance. We've talked about, what was this previous section called? Because I don't think it was democratizing the state. Was it? Yep. We talked about democratizing the state. Now we're going to talk about democratizing international institutions, which, hell yes. Depending on what she describes here, I feel like international institutions are democratizing themselves because they're imploding on themselves. But I don't know. Let's see. Neoliberal hegemony is perhaps strongest and hardest to challenge at the level of the world economy. As we've seen, neoliberal academics and policymakers spent decades constructing an architecture for the global economy that has insulated capital from democratic pressure. The result, the result has been the ongoing exploitation and underdevelopment of the poor world by the rich. So I would say of the global south by the global north. But yeah, poor world. In reality, the global south is poor in comparison to the global north. So yeah, by the poor, underdevelopment and exploitation of the poor world by the rich. But as geopolitical power begins to shift, there are opportunities to challenge imperialism and build a genuinely democratic world order. What up, Rim? You're not late, fam. You're good. We got Rim in the chat room for YouTube. Fuck yeah, thank you, Rim. Let me know if the quality is good. But yeah. Um, the principles outlined at the Bandung Conference and those of the subsequent New International Economic Order, or NIEO, remain critical to shifting the balance of power within the world economy. The spirit of Bandung, is it Bangdung, 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 centers on the. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how it's supposed to feel in my mouth. The spirit of Bangdung centers on demands that powerful nations respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all others, as well as the settlement of all disputes through peaceful means. Imperial powers have consistently engaged in both illegal wars of aggression, cloaked in the language of freedom and democracy, and humanitarian intervention, flooding already tense regions with weapons only to leave as soon as they realize the conflicts are unwinnable. They're doing that in Afghanistan, they're doing that in Haiti, they're doing that literally in damn near every single country in the global south. These endless wars must be opposed. The NIEO focused on the reform of international trade, investment, and finance, as well as promoting solidarity among states in the global south. Reviving the NIEO requires states in the global north to end unfair tariffs and quotas. Okay, so there's always been a tariff war. I think that's something that we need to like really acknowledge is, people were like, "Oh my god, there's a tariff war" when Donald Trump started doing tariffs against everybody. But really, like in any other imperial boomerang, the tariffs that have been forced upon the global south just boomeranged back to be forced upon the global north by the whichever, cornerstone of the global north exists. So by United States. So it's like there's always been a tariff war. There's always been tariff abuse. It's just been abuse against people who couldn't abuse back. Ban done. Yeah, ban dung. Okay. Got you. Appreciate you, Trina. Trina, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Bang dung. Bang dung. Ban dung. Ban dung. It's the ban dung conference. Got you. But yeah, yeah, there's always been tariff wars. There's always been tariff abuse. And now the global north is getting to experience what it's like to be abused through this way by the United States. Anyways, I digress. Tariffs, quotas, and subsidies should, however, be permitted for poor countries seeking to build up domestic industries by protecting them against unfair international competition. The infrastructure that underpins global trade must also be governed democratically, based on public good, not private profit. The regulation of sectors like shipping and tech requires a substantial overhaul in this regard. Trade agreements must also be democratized. Rather than depending on regional agreements like NAFTA and the TPP, within which one powerful country is able to dominate others, the international trading system should be governed by multilateral agreements based on the principle of one country, one vote, right? So instead of having in these international institutions 5 or 6 countries that are allowed to have veto power, every country has one vote. So it's like, more democratized in, in like things like the UN or the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, those institutions, allowing for each country to get one vote and not allowing for certain countries to have veto power would go, like getting rid of the veto power would go a long way in a lot of ways, I think. Trade deals should never be used to bludgeon smaller states into adopting policies that favor capital in the North. Regressive rules governing intellectual property rights must be rescinded, as these prevent states in the South from accessing the technologies needed to industrialize, as well as denying life saving drugs and life giving seeds to billions of people, right? Like, we should allow people to make their own fucking food, you know, and create their own medicine and all that stuff. It should not be um, monopolized by one or a few states. And the deeply undemocratic investor state dispute settlements include, and the deeply undemocratic investor state dispute settlements included in many bilateral and multilateral investment treaties must be totally abandoned. The global south is in the midst of a deep a debt crisis that is bankrolling the global north, might I add. So they're experiencing a deep debt crisis, in part because of the excessive integration with international financial markets, which was crafted by the global north. That's what Grace Blakeley is describing here is the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, right? This is how they operate. Even before the most recent crisis, Sub Saharan Africa was losing 3 times more in capital flight each year than it gained in development aid. Laws surrounding international trade and investment should permit all countries to implement credit and exchange controls, as well as allowing them to direct credit within their own economies using both fiscal policy and arm's length institutions like national investment banks. Dealing with the dealing with the debt crisis, which we're about to go into an even deeper debt crisis come probably next year. Dealing with the debt crisis requires changes to the mechanisms governing disputes between debtors and creditors. There is no reason why creditors should consistently be protected from the consequences of their lending decisions at the expense of generally poor debtor nations, right? So in the macro, also in the micro, I agree with that. Um, Creditors should not be protected from their lending decisions. There shouldn't be no too big to fail. And if we were to trickle up, no, you not too big to fail, from the micro to the macro, I think it would have saved us a lot of pain. Hopefully once this tech bubble happens and we go through this economic depression that we are going into, when we come out on the other side, it will be ideas and policies like these that we can champion to replace. Like, there's going to be a vacuum created after this tech bubble and all this other shit throws everybody over a cliff and everybody's dying and shit and starving to death and all that stuff. That is going to be the time we are going to be able to really interject an alternative, because people are not going to want to do it any other way. Phil says if bailouts exist at all, they should bail out victims, not perpetrators or poor lending choices. Exactly. Stare student loansly. Facts. Both of you are correct. Yeah. Um, yeah. These people create these spaces, and like they need you to be in this desperate position so they can make money off of you. That's what the whole interesting is for, you know? Um, that's why I agree. The one thing that I agree with Abrahamic religions is that interest is haram. You know, putting interest on loans is a sin. Totally agree with that shit. That shit is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Stop trying to make a profit off of people. We're trying to circulate money. But yeah, there is no. I think I did this already. Kevin Gallen. Kevin Gallagher and Richard Kozul Wright argue cogently for some much needed reforms to this system, including introducing new allocations of IMF. IMF is the International Monetary Fund. Allocations of IMF special drawing rights, which poor countries can exchange for cash in emergencies, establishing a multilateral swap facility at the IMF like the swap lines currently offered by the US Central Bank, and establishing a global debt authority with the power to determine how debts are restructured. Makes sense. And to do it, having it be independent and not run by, financial conglomerates that are trying to make a bunch of money. Yeah. Flashpoint says Richard Wright equals Black Power, talks about the Bangdung. Oh, nice, nice. Talks about the Bangdung conference. Cool beans. We're gonna have to uh, take a note of that so that we can put that up on the Patreon. Most importantly, unpayable debts must be canceled. That makes sense. If you can't pay for the debt, you might as well cancel that shit. Um, Especially for whole entire countries. In the wake of the pandemic and with the climate crisis looming, a new debt jubilee for the global south is the sine qua non. Sine qua non? Sine qua non. SINE, first word. Qua, QUA, second word. NON, non, third word. All right. Rim says that goes back to Iceland saying no to the TARP option. Word. Also displayed delayed processing the sound. All right, cool, cool, cool. Just making sure. So it's just like delayed. Thank you, Rim. But yeah, you're right. It does go back to when we covered that in the book earlier in the book, where Iceland said no to the TARP reform because they were not trying to bail these motherfuckers out. You know, makes fucking sense. Jubilee is the happiest sounding word that's always associated with the. I think that really matches, you know, which, not to turn on into a quick nerd, but I think that that really highlights how genius of a character design Jubilee and X-Men is, because what are fireworks but beautiful disasters? Fireworks are just these gorgeous explosions and colorful destruction happening in the air, which matches the word. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that was like brilliant character design. But you're right. You're right. Where did I leave off? None of these reforms are likely to happen on their own. It is therefore imperative that states in the global south build strong links with one another, as they did in the Bangdang, or as they did at Bangdang, and use their combined weight to shift the balance of power within the world economy. This power can be used to push for reform within existing institutions, but also to build new democratic trade and investment institutions like regional development banks that can support development today. It is also perfectly legitimate for states in the global south to build strategic alliances and economic relationships with other powerful actors within the world economy to boost their negotiation power with Western institutions. I think that's exactly what the global south is doing. A lot of global south nations are doing when they're pivoting towards BRICS nations. Is that let's see the more powerful, the alternative. Can we, like, let's see if we connect that. Flashpoint says Richard Wright's book talks about Ghana before liberation, Bandung Conference, and the 1921 anti-fascist movement in Spain. Okay, word. Yeah, we're definitely gonna look that up. I'm gonna download that today, but yeah, yeah, we'll definitely add that to the list of books that we need for the book club, because I'm interested to seeing what Richard Wright's perspective is on it. Mm, mm, mm. Global South nations must work. Yeah, yeah. No, did we do this? Yeah. Global South nations must work together to protect themselves from the consequences of climate breakdown caused largely by the rich world. A new international climate bank is required. Woo! Hell yeah. An international climate bank would be, that's exactly what we need. That's exactly what the world needs. If we were in a better state and not run by these fucking megalomaniac cokeheads and ketamine addicts, we would have nations already creating a climate bank, an international climate bank, because that's how big of an existential threat climate change is. But we're not gonna have no nice things. So yeah, a new international climate bank is required to provide the funding required for states in the poor world to protect their people from the effects of climate breakdown. Thank you guys for liking on YouTube. That really does help. The more you guys engage with YouTube, the bigger I can grow everything on YouTube, so that when I get rid of TikTok, we'll all be over there. I think maybe next week I'll think about that. Let me think about that first. Let me not go on a tangent. But yeah, so these international climate banks can help the poor world to protect their people from the effects of climate breakdown today and support decarbonization over the long run. Like the domestic national investment banks proposed above, the climate bank should be both democratic and representative, with every state being given an equal vote. Decarbonizing the world economy would require new funding as well as additional finance. We need a new Marshall Plan for decarbonization, whereby states transfer funds as well as skills and technologies to states in the global south to facilitate the transition to net zero. Climate breakdown will inevitably mean more people are forced to move from the places most affected by global warming to those that caused it. Governments in the global north must get real on migration instead of spending billions on measures designed to keep migrants out or expel or punish them once they arrive, like the astonishingly inefficient UK government plan to commandeer plans to deport people to Rwanda, and some US governors' similar strategy to fly migrants to cities like New York and Washington, D.C., funds should be redirected to facilitating the training and integration of migrants and refugees. I agree with that as well. That also helps with the dying or the aging population issue. You know, when you're able to circulate a populace, when you're able to circulate people, you can keep your countries more youthful that way. You know, just throwing that out there. So, in on a multitude of ways, um, being more porous when it comes to migration is going to be help. Thank you, I appreciate it. I buy direct. Got these motherfuckers for like $100. Thank you. Trini says they're going to see it as fixing. Yeah, yes, they already do see it as like fixing the aging prison population. It's fucking disgusting. Yes. I don't know. No. No, I didn't throw it away. And I'm in the middle. Hey, I'm in the middle of a book club. Don't nobody care about your guava jelly? It's somewhere in the cabinet. I haven't even touched your guava jelly since I've been here. I haven't. Bothering me. Nice. Sorry. Fucking mother. Hold on. That just threw me off. Rim says that's like climate reparations, basically. Yes. That's going to be a big uphill. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's either we do it now where it's easy or we do it because we have to do it. But yeah, to the rescue. Uh, we have several policing officials who have talked about how the aging population of the prison system is bad. So a lot of like there's one like famous person who's going to be going to prison. Oh yeah. It's whoever killed that one rapper. Some suburban boy trying to be a thug. The policing official there said that they wanted to throw the book at him because he has a young vibrant body, youthful body that they can use for labor. So they're blatant about the slavery that they like to partake in. It's a goddamn shame. All right, now that we've got that out of the way and the fucking guava jelly mystery, let me finish this goddamn section. Such measures will be of substantial benefit to rich countries, which, due to demographic aging, damn man, damn, I'm not psychic. I feel like me and race, we right here, yo. Um, which, due to demographic aging, declining population health, and reactionary migration policies, are suffering from a severe dearth of workers in sectors like health and social care. What's more, migrant workers from parts of the world with a stronger tradition of worker organizing often bring these skills with them to the rich world, making it easier for workers in traditionally disorganized sectors to unionize, which is important. As long as workers are well organized, and the purported link between inward migration and lower wages will not materialize, right? Because that's the only reason why they're stealing our jobs because they want to make them cheaper is a problem. It's because the labor force is so weak that they cannot maintain fighting for getting paid adequately. So if there were unions, then everybody's pay would gradually go up um, the way that it's supposed to, instead of allowing for corporations to have another tool in working around and circumnavigating paying their workers. So yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. The most important factor determining wage growth is workers' bargaining power, which the governor of Virginia, Scamagel, Scamagel, Scamberger, just vetoed workers' ability to collective bargain. So that's how vote blue no matter who is working out for Virginia right now. But yeah, so um, the most important factor determining wage growth is workers' bargaining power, as demonstrated by the fact that historically high rates of employment have not led to higher wages in poorly unionized economies. Critical precursors to achieving any of these reforms, including ending tax avoidance, preventing a race to the bottom on tax rates, and shutting down tax havens. There is a there is an urgent need to end legal forms of tax avoidance like profit shifting and introduce minimum requirements around transparency on tax reporting and financial flows. The wealthy states that act as conduits for tax avoidance and that tend to govern or oversee most of the world's tax havens must take the lead in this reform agenda. Word. Nice. All right. I'm going to stop it right there. Because we have to take a bit of a pause because I have to do some ripping and running around and some errands and stuff. But I will be back. I'll probably be back on here to finish the book this afternoon. So let's. It'll probably be around like 5. Maybe 4 or 5. Let's aim for 4 or 5. Phil says the fact that U.S. blue collar workers are the biggest bootlickers. Yes, it is by design. It is very much by design. Um, we're all bootlickers to an extent. It's just a travesty. I was saying tragedy and travesty put together, but yeah, it is really fucked up that we are conditioned this way. And I think everybody just assumes that these corporations aren't as fucked up as they actually are. And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Thanks for. Oh, no problem, Trini. Look, go out there, live your life. Share all the cool things that you've done and all that good stuff. Um, I'm sorry again for this disjointed book club. But for any of you guys who aren't gonna make it, don't worry about it. You already know on the Patreon, I will have this up, and I will have the second part of the final chapter of this book up as well. So it's fine. I have a feeling that if I do this later in the day, we're gonna get some newer members and newer community, refugees and all that good shit. So either way, it'll work itself out. Um, but yeah, but yeah. Flashpoint says unity in any form is forbidden. Union, look, man, we gonna have to just ask for forgiveness later and just make that shit happen. We gotta do it. Unfortunately, but yeah. So far, how do you guys feel about this section? Uh, a lot of the examples that Grace has given so far, I think, are very like straightforward and things that are like, yeah, that makes sense. Um, I think these are, I have a couple of black liberal mutuals and friends who, they're constantly asking for what's the solution, what's the solution. I really want to itemize a lot of these examples of what can be done, both on the macro and the micro, so that it can be like, hey, look, here, you know, we're getting very specific and very in the nitty gritty. I will hold your hand and walk you through all of these, right? Um, so that you can understand what it is that we're trying, what needs to be done. Okay. And at this point, if you are still being like, well, that's impossible, then obviously logic is not the problem. It's emotion, it's conditioning, it's a mental lack of will that is getting in your way. Because what is happening here is not working. It's not working. It's not working. I know it's not working. You know it's not working. We know it's not working. It's not working. And not only is it not working, it is not up to the task of tomorrow's problems. The Democratic Party is not up to the task of climate change. They're not up to the task of reining in these corporations. They're quite literally allowing these motherfuckers to vote in elections. You know what I'm saying? So they're not up to task. What's up, Mocha? What's up? But yeah, so yeah. Um, okay, so let's shoot for. I'm probably gonna be able to knock all this shit out. Let's shoot for 4 o'clock. I'm gonna run back. We're gonna spin this back. It's going well. It's going well. We're reading, Mocha. This is our book club. Well, we just finished. We just wrapped up the first half of it. So yeah, we will shoot for 4 o'clock. We'll reconvene here. Everybody, hope you got your snacks and all that good stuff. I will probably have this on the Patreon. So if you just got here and you've missed anything, don't worry about it. If you go to the Patreon, which you can find the pathway to that in the bio of this account, if you go to the Patreon, you can watch all of this um, at your own leisure. Right now, it is 10:51 Eastern Standard Time. So let's reconvene. What did I say? 3 p.m. Let's do 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll reconvene here. I will finish out this book. We will finish out chapter 9, finish out the conclusion, have a little bit of discussion, and talk about the next book that we are going to be reading, so that everybody is aware of what it is that we're going to be reading starting June. That's also why I'm gonna like come back, because I really want to start. I want to start Pride Month in fiction and not so much in nonfiction. You know. Yes, 2:30 your time. Hell yeah, round two. But yeah, if you guys missed anything, don't worry about it. Hop onto the Patreon. This will be up there so you can watch what we've read so far and what we've dove into so far. Um, and yeah. So if you don't know that, that'll be there. If you can't find the Patreon, it'll also be on YouTube, um, which is where it counts, all that stuff. You can also find the YouTube in the bio and all that good shit. So there's multiple ways for you to catch up while I'm gone doing the things that I need to fucking do and all that other good shit. Um, yeah. If I don't see you guys later today, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, do what's right, not what's legal. Remember that only justice can bring peace. And remember that it's not rocket science, it's just community. Okay? I will see you guys in a couple of hours. I love you all.